Hello artists, today we're going to be making a Wayne Thiebaud inspired dessert picture of realistic pumpkin pie. Follow along with me and I'll show you all the steps. Alright, so I am so excited to draw something that's going to look delicious just like Wayne Thiebaud. It's just really fun to me. So the first thing we're going to do is draw this realistic piece of pumpkin pie. And in order to do that, we're going to draw a triangle kind of at an angle in the center of our paper. That is our main subject here. So we don't want to draw it real tiny. We want a pretty good sized triangle. So I kind of put it at an angle there. So my piece of pie is coming down toward me. So I'm going to have this triangle come down. And you might not be able to see super well right now because I'm drawing lightly. So that way when I color it in, you can see the colors and not so much of my pencil mark. Now to make it look more 3D, we are going to bring this little chunk down, make a nice thick piece of pie coming down here. And then we're going to draw a line connecting. Oh yeah, looking delicious already. The next thing I want to do is draw some delicious whipped cream on top. And so we kind of just make like a little swirly kind of shape. And I'm going to want to erase that line. And I'm going to end up keeping this little area white for my whipped cream. Okay, now we need that pie crust. And it usually comes, it has kind of like a little spot where people push the dough in. So I'm going to make kind of a lumpy bumpy line to show that part of the pie. And it comes over here. And then I'm going to tuck it in and have it come right on down here. And then pull it down this way to the end. And then right there I'm going to connect it. So now if you have followed those steps, you have a pretty realistic looking 3D piece of pie. And so the next step would be putting this piece of pie on a plate. So our plate is going to be an oval shape behind our pie. So we're just going to carefully try to make that oval shaped plate. You want to make sure it comes down so your pie isn't just hanging off. You want it to go all the way around and then back over. And again, we're using pencil, so if your plate kind of looks lumpy or bumpy like mine turned out, you can smooth it out and make it just the shape you would like. So now I've got this plate, I've got this realistic piece of pie. I'm even thinking I might have made my plate a little too huge. I might tuck it in a little bit over here. And so that is the awesome part of using very light lines, is you can go back and change things up a little bit to more how you would like them. And now my plate's just looking a little more like I would like it. The next thing we're going to do is put a line horizontally, and where we pick up here, I'm not touching, but I'm trying to keep my pencil in the same spot. Boom, so I put it back down over there. And now I have divided my wall space from my table space. So the next thing we're going to do is get started on coloring and adding those shadows. Okay, so I went ahead and I went through my crayons and I got out the color yellow orange, which is kind of a lighter orange. I got out a dark regular orange, and I got out brown. Because we're trying to make this look more realistic, we know that when we look at a piece of pumpkin pie, it's not all one color. There's shadows, there's spots where the light shines on it where it's lighter, and we're going to try to create that with our pie. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and color in up here, and I don't want to get it on my whipped cream, so I'm going to make sure I don't run into that. And I'm going to go ahead and color this whole thing in with my yellow orange. And I'm doing my best to stay in my lines, make it smooth. Sometimes if you color like that and leave a lot of empty space, it doesn't look very realistic. So I'm going to go back on top of that and really smooth it in with that yellow orange. All right. And then down here, because this is on the top where the light shines, this will be a little darker. I'm going to use my regular orange. And you can see it is just a little bit darker. And it gives it a little bit of dimension here. So we're adding that in. And then I'm gonna start using some brown to do some shadows and to make the crust of the pie. So I'm gonna take their brown and use that to color in the crust of the pie. And I'm just gonna color all the way around. And suddenly our pumpkin pie is starting to look a lot more realistic. Okay, so I'm adding in this pie crust. I'm getting hungry, people. Okay, now I want to try to make a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to put a little shadow right behind my whipped cream here with my darker orange. So you just kind of make a little curve right behind, just a little curved line, and then kind of draw it along the line. And that makes it look like there's a little shadow behind the whipped cream. And I'm going to do the same thing with the brown over here. So where this comes down, I'm going to just put some brown on top of the orange to make it look like there's a little bit of a shadow here on that pumpkin pie on the side. So just adding a little bit of this darker shade. And I'm liking the way that looks. I might even put a little bit of a darker shadow right back there. Okay, so we have our realistic looking piece of pie here. And now we're going to want to add to this by making a realistic background with more shadows. So the first thing I'm going to do is work on a shadow behind my piece of pie. And I'm gonna get out my black crayon, and I'm thinking if the light is shining from up here down onto this is the lighter part, and the shadows kind of go behind. There's a shadow behind the whipped cream, there's a shadow on the side down here, and so behind our pie is going to be a little shadow. What I do is I just kind of draw an oval shape that kind of goes right here behind that pie. And this is where I'm going to start really with a lot of pressure, dark first for my little shadow here. And then as I go out, I'm going to lighten, 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 lighten. And I'm just going to go about to where I had that little spot for myself. And I want to make sure it doesn't look like a jagged line, so I'm going to go back and use harder pressure to lighter pressure just to fade it, 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 fade it. Okay. Looking like a shadow. All right, now we've got a shadow behind our pie. The next thing I want to do is draw my table. I'm thinking of greens for my table. So I'm going to get my regular green for my shadows, and I'm also going to use the yellow green, and it will again give it that realistic look by adding some shade and shadow behind the plate. So we're still imagining the light is coming from here and it's casting shadows this way. So the first thing I'm going to do is color my whole table. Whatever color you choose, I'm going for the light green, and then I'm going to take a darker green to be the shadow. There's all kinds of color combinations you could use. You could have a pink table and maybe use red violet for the shadow. You could do like a red table and then put a purple shadow. You could do a light blue table with a dark blue shadow. So just finding two colors in your crayons, one that's lighter, one that's darker, and they're analogous, so they would be next to each other on the color wheel, and you'll use one as the shadow and one as the base color. So I'm going to go ahead and start coloring my whole table in, very carefully making sure I don't get green on my beautiful white plate, and I'm going to color all of this in. Ooh, I got that all colored in. Now it is time to add a little bit of a shadow behind the plate, just like we did behind our piece of pie. So I'm going to think about this part is still getting light from over here, so my shadow is going to kind of go like this and go around the back, kind of right there. And so I am going to just pushing really, really hard next to the plate. with my dark green, I'm putting this shadow to show where it gets a little darker behind the plate. So I'm using a harder pressure, I'm pushing this along here. I want to go all the way to this edge, making it look nice and smooth. Okay. And then I don't like how that looks like one big rigid line. I want to fade it out, so I'm using a little bit less pressure. There, that's looking more like a shadow. A shadow wouldn't have that really harsh line. It would be more fuzzy, a little smoother. So I'm just smoothing it out, lighter, 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 till it fades into that light table color. All right, I've got my realistic piece of pie with my realistic looking table, and the next thing we're going to do is do this back wall. And so I've decided that my two colors will be this blue green, which is kind of like a lighter greener blue, and then my darker blue for the shadow. So the first thing I'm going to do is color this whole wall in with my lighter blue. Okay, so I got that light blue kind of down everywhere on the wall. I see some places where I did kind of a scribbly job, so I just want to make sure I gently go back over it with my crayon, maybe in a little bit of a different direction, just so I don't have this scribbly looking coloring and it looks more smooth. Okay, so I'm getting those little spots taken care of. The next thing I'm going to do is take my darker shade and get that done for my little shadow behind the table. I saw some really cool ones where they had a yellow wall with like an orange shadow, or a light yellow with a dark yellow shadow. There's lots of combinations you could do, whatever color you want your table and your wall. So now we're thinking that this table is casting a shadow onto the wall behind. So we're going to take our crayon, and again, using that pressure, we're going to push hard against where the table is. Be very careful that you don't accidentally get blue all over your plate. And then we're just going to be pushing, and I'm just going to go about up to here. Now I'm going to use that harder pressure next to the table. Whoop. And then as I go up, the pressure gets lighter, lighter, lighter. So, you know, that's just how we do shadows. We put a nice dark chunk down here, and then we're going to blend it by pushing less and less till you're barely even touching the paper. And that helps your dark blue blend right in with your light blue and give it that nice shadow. Wow, that looks nice. Now we can do this side. Same thing, we're gonna go up, 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 and then I'm gonna be careful to line around the plate first, because if I go in there, it's not something that I can erase. So I wanna be very careful with that. All right, adding that shadow, 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 up, 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 up. All right, and now we are having a very realistic pumpkin pie picture that makes me feel pretty hungry. I don't know about you guys. You're always welcome to sign your picture over here. All right. And you have a completed realistic pumpkin pie picture. I can't wait to see what you create. One finishing thing that I forgot is adding a little light brown kind of squiggles to make your whipped cream look like it's 3D and coming right out of the pie. So we're just adding just a very light little kind of squiggly shadow to that whipped cream to make it look like it's coming right off your page. All right, thank you so much for drawing with me today. I can't wait to see your pictures.